You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 412, our Q&A show that we like to do regularly here. And I know it's been some time since we've done one, but this, I think, probably is, and I mean this in all sincerity, this is like our favorite type of episode to do because we get to answer questions directly from you, our supporters. And a lot of times you guys have better content than we do. I'm just being completely honest. So, but we're excited about it. We've got some really great questions, some really well thought out questions. And one of the questions we are going to, if you're not familiar with how we do this, we take one question every time we do this type of an episode, and we actually turn that into a Patreon episode. So we've selected one of the questions that was submitted, and we're going to make that a full bona fide episode and dedicate a whole, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it may be, to just that question. And we'll reveal that here in just a second. But speaking of revealings, Jonesy.
That was one of your less smooth transitions, but
yeah, it caught me off guard there.
It's an older one, but it'll work. It checks out. We'll take it. How are you doing?
Hey, you're here tonight. Welcome.
I am, and I've got my lovely black chrysanthemum shirt on.
Yeah, could you just stand up real quick? Because I do need to just appreciate, or just there you go. So yeah, that's the black chrysanthemum shirt that we put up. They got taken down again in the style of Black Sabbath, and Jonesy and I were able to squeeze in a couple copies before, or prints. I don't know what you call that.
Right.
Orders, whatever. Before,
contraband.
Yeah, illegal stuff. Before they hit us with the whammy on that one. So we took the L on that one, but I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out a way to get that out there because I do like the work.
What's interesting though is that with Stephanie, the sticker got lost in the mail, and she contacted them, and they went ahead and printed her a new one and did it again. So clearly they still have the stuff.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of
they're just finding someone a little more acceptable to do it, and they'll give them the credit. Like, hey, we got this great design.
Right.
These schmoes over the Cantina Cast.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm talking like that.
Someone else is probably going to get, make that official and then get all the royalties. And although we don't really make, it's not like we make.
I know, we make like pennies on the stuff, so it's fine.
Pennies.
I tell you what, we got a pretty packed show though. Why don't we do a few news items to get us started off with? How about that?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. The quick and easy are the ones that keep coming up, Cantina Cast stuff, right? So we have Celebration coming up in a couple weeks. Don't know if you knew that, but it is coming fast at us here. So we're on the podcast stage. This is the Fallen Stars, Jedi of the High Republic, that we're going to do with the folks over at Tarkin's Top Shelf. So if you will be at Celebration, we go on the stage on Thursday, May 26th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're still waiting to hear back what kind of live streaming they might have available to us. We're still somewhat pessimistic about that, but we'll see what the reality looks like when we get there. We talk with our folks when we get someone assigned to us. We'll have a better idea of what the reality of that situation is going to be. And then also, if you're going to be there, or if you're in the area, even if you're not going to Celebration, we'd like to meet up with you guys on Friday the 27th at 7:00. We're going to be over at Unsung Brewing Company, and we've had a few people sign up already. And actually, I reached out to we used to call him Rondaloo, but Rondale. And so he's going to come out and meet us out over there too. That was super exciting. He's just moved back to LA. So if you're in the area and you're not, don't have anything to do, come over to Unsung Brewing on that Friday, the 27th at 7 p.m. And we'd love to meet up with you. And again, we talked about this before. There's wine next door. There's non-alcoholic drinks, and there's barbecue, I believe. So it sounds like a really cool time. And again, this is a kind of a nerd geek type vibe with Unsung, and so it fits us perfectly. So we think it'll be a good time, and it'll be a lot of fun. And actually, I saw other podcasts are actually doing one there, like on Sunday or something like that too. So
really?
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see other folks recognizing that place.
You said nerd kind of thing. I was thinking, well, that rules us out, but no, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Hey, and before we go any further, so yeah, I'm throwing that up right now. There's the Celebration 27th, 7 p.m. But if you guys want to follow everything that we're doing show-wise, or even some of the stuff that's going on at Celebration, go to cantinacast.com/events, and you can see a calendar. Jonesy's done a really good job of putting all that together. It stays up to date.
What's fun about it is you can actually subscribe to that calendar.
What?
Yeah, so if you're on Google Calendar or I think iOS, it'll subscribe to it, and you don't have to do anything. It hits your calendar right away, and otherwise you can export if you're a poor sap like me using Outlook or something.
Oh,
I found a workaround.
I was say there's always a workaround.
There's always a workaround. So real Star Wars news though. Star Wars Brotherhood came out today from Mike Chen, which is super exciting. May 10th, come out. Have you had a chance to start it yet? We've had the advanced reader copies for 2 or 3 weeks now. Audiobook advanced copy came out, I think, about a week or 2 ago. So have you got a head start on any of it yet, Albert?
Yes.
And what are your initial thoughts on it? Like, feeling good about it? Is it what you expected?
I was not expecting it, but that's not a bad thing. I like the writing style. I've never read anything from Mike Chen, and there was actually a good friend of mine who was a huge fan of his, and posted something and said, "Wow, this is incredible." She's not really that. I mean, she's a Star Wars fan, but she's not like a huge Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
So she was pretty excited, was pumped about picking up the book. But I got to say, I'm actually really impressed with the work. So the timing's right. It feels. I mean, we're on the cusp of Kenobi. And, if you got an inkling for more Clone Wars type storyline, want to know more about that relationship, definitely this is the book that digs into a lot of that. So we're going to come back and do something with this book. I'm just not sure what and when, because we've got a packed schedule between now and Celebration. But definitely we'll get some coverage here. But what did you think about it? Have you finished? Because I know you've been...
I'm really close to the very end, yeah. And again, so what's really cool about this book is that this is taking place in the transition of Anakin from Padawan to Jedi Knight, and how Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship is evolving. And what's interesting is about half the book, really, they're not in the same room, and that type of thing. Yeah. But by the second half of the book, the pace, like you said, the pacing is really good. And the interactions and the inner monologue about how Anakin and Obi-Wan both view each other and the relationship, and how that's changing and how they have to change it. But you also get a lot of great insight that feeds directly into what we would see in Revenge of the Sith, and potentially, even beyond that in some of the other material we might be coming across here soon. So I think it's a really good book. It's really entertaining, and it's a different, like, I thought I wouldn't care about Neimoidia, but the Neimoidians are pretty all right, I guess. Kind of.
I'm still not there. Maybe something will happen later on, or in the book that I haven't gotten to yet.
But yeah, a good book out there. Definitely go pick it up, folks. It's on audiobook, and it's on Kindle, and it's on physical, of course. I think Lauren picked one up, physical copy today as well. So highly recommended. It is a very good book, very solid book, and you can see it right above me that it's got nice artwork too, if you like to collect hardcover books.
Yep, that's for sure.
And the last piece of Star Wars news we have is Ahsoka began production today. So that's pretty exciting. We have that underway now.
Yep, that photo's been analyzed a million ways already. And
the one with the really director's chair with like Filoni's hat on it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's like literally nothing in it. So, but it's still exciting nonetheless. I mean, it's good to know that show is going to happen. So not that we had any doubt, but it's always good to see that sort of thing. So pretty excited that we're finally going to get that Ahsoka.
Pretty excited about that.
Series.
Yeah. Can't wait.
And I got to apologize.
Albert's been dying like off screen for the last several days. So
it's ailing health. I'm falling apart over here.
You've had a rough stretch, man. You've had a rough stretch last couple of weeks. But this is the thing people don't see is, like, we'll get off, we'll finish there. We'll love it. Albert just collapses like from lately. He's like drenching in sweat.
Yeah.
So the things that every once in a while we have to do to not make it look like we're sick or something is interesting, but all the power to Albert. He's been churning through it.
Thank you. And I've actually got tea with me now tonight. So I've actually got, look, I'm going to hold it up here. I've got my Hoth cup, if you can see that.
I like
I can't turn it because it's completely full. It's at Starbucks.
Yeah. Those,
whatever.
What are they called?
I don't know. I've been here.
I've been there series. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. I was being silly. Okay, cool. I nailed it.
But if I knew you were bringing yours out, I would have brought mine out. All I've got is my Hop Solo glass of water.
There's the front of it. No, see, I got the Hoth logo there on the side there. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this because and thank you. This was actually Lauren's idea. She's like, "You big dummy, why don't you drink tea while you're doing the show?" I was like, "No, heck, I didn't think of that. That's actually pretty good for my throat." So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I have a lot of great moms in the groups that take care of us here.
Right, somebody's got to.
Cantina Cast, dead moms.
Hey, Jonesy.
Yes, Albert.
Do you remember that time when I thought it would be an incredible idea to come on the air for the Book of Boba Fett premiere and wear that onesie.
That has to be like one of the top 10 most horrible ideas you've ever had.
Yes, it was. And the biggest problem that I had with that onesie was the fabric just didn't breathe. It was coarse, rough, irritating.
Did it get everywhere too?
And it got everywhere. Yes, but did you also know that MeUndies actually does a onesie now? And they actually have a Star Wars inspired onesie.
That's right.
And just like all the other products, that is made from very breathable material. You and I both have had a chance now to actually wear this material, and the print's incredible. I'm going to pull this up real quick, so I want you to see this, because I saw this and thought, I need to get this, and I'll wear this on a show, and I'll redeem myself. But yeah, this is the Lightspeed print that you can see here. Hopefully, if anybody that's watching now, this is the one that's got the. It's got the Millennium Falcon, it's got the Stormtrooper on there, the Star Wars logo.
Kind of your classic Star Wars PJ type of print. Yeah, it's great.
Yep. So they finally put that in the onesie. They haven't done the other one yet, the other print yet.
Rebel Squadron, yeah.
Rebel Squadron, yeah, but I'm still waiting for that one, because when they do, I may have to pick that one up as well. But just like all of the other MeUndies products, this is fabric you'll actually want to wear. And you can wear it even when you're podcasting and not look like a fool the entire time. So we've teamed up with MeUndies to bring you guys a special offer, but more on that in just a minute.
All right. Now we were saying we've both bought these products with our own money, and we're that like kind of sold on it. It's really cool. And what's really fun is today I wore the crew socks for the first time, and I wore them to work because I go to work a couple days a week now. And I wore them, and they were extremely comfortable, and they were as comfortable as like sleeping in a tauntaun on Hoth in the winter.
That warm, huh?
That warm, and they were like nice and thick. Like I like it when the sock actually has substance; it doesn't feel like you're just running right through it.
Yes.
And which is really nice, because the ankle socks are the same way. And again, I've got both patterns, both the Lightspeed and the Rebel Squadron. And again, I mean, you can't speak enough about these. A premium, undergarment as well as socks and other things. It really does. It really sets itself apart, and I've been really happy with these.
Yeah, like I said, we don't do advertisements very often, but when we do, it's for products that we actually like and want to endorse. And again, feel like something that we would wear and you would want to wear or use or whatever. And this is definitely one of them. So I picked up, since we last talked about this, I picked up another pair. I picked up the Lightspeed underwear. And I'm happy to say, like, again, I've already talked about it. They're super comfortable, first off. Like, really again, the fabric's great. The socks are amazing. I know Jonesy just talked about, I've got a pair of socks now as well. But the cool thing is, and this is important to me, so I'm like one of those idiots that washes everything. Like, I live on the edge of life, man. I wash everything in extremely hot water. And if it shrinks, it shrinks. Let's just do it. I don't care. I'm not sitting here looking at labels and stuff. And these things have held up really well so far. And they've been washed quite a bit. Yes, I have more. I wear more than one pair, but I've worn them enough that that I've well, when I was 13, made a different story. But now that I'm 26, completely different. But they've held up really well in the wash. And that's important to me because, again, we run things through hot water in wash cycles. And a lot of times this stuff starts to fall apart. The elastic gets kind of, I don't know, wonky on you. Yeah, it starts to fray as well. And I haven't had any problems with these so far. They still hold up just like they were taken out of the package. So MeUndies makes the softest fabrics you can ever put on your body. So whether you're sitting on your couch or living your comfiest life, this is what you want to go with. Once you try their socks, underwear, bralettes, loungewear, onesies, you'll never go back. Choose from a wide range of limited edition prints and colors and sizes from extra small to 4XL. You can even sign up for their free to join MeUndies membership, where you get a monthly subscription that sends you new styles right to your door. Plus, you get 30% off virtually everything they make, free shipping and returns on every order, early access to early launches or new launches, and exclusive member-only sales. And I will say this too. I don't know if I shared you can, like, when you sign up, you can sign up for like a specific style of print or whatever. I signed up for the wild, or was it fun?
Yeah, the fun.
Fun, yeah. So I've got like bacon and eggs on some patterns, and
that makes them for some fun dinner conversation.
Yeah, there's all kinds of and they've got so many different patterns, honestly, that you can pick from.
What's actually really cool about the 30% off a subscription program is I think you can do it for as little as one product too, and they'll still send it to you, which is great if you don't, if you want to limit what you're getting. But what's really cool is MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners as well. So for any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off. So even if you missed all of the awesome deals that they had on May the 4th, we still got you covered. I see what I did there.
I see what you did there.
I'm still working on it, man. I'm still getting there. Right. So to get your 15% off your first order, and remember, this comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Make sure you go over to MeUndies.com/Cantina. That's MeUndies.com/CANTINA, and you won't be sorry. This is great stuff.
All right. Well, thank you. And I'm glad I was able to share some very personal information with you all about myself and Jonesy.
Yeah.
I know more about you. I've known more about you on a personal level since we started, supporting these guys than I think I've ever thought I would know.
It's important to break some of those barriers down, Albert.
Yeah. Let's not uncover too many barriers, though, shall we? Oh, okay. All right. Enough of the dad jokes.
There's never enough.
Never enough. Let's get into our Patreon, the main episode. Let's get into our Patreon questions and not just Patreon questions, our Q&A questions, Patreon and non-Patreon members alike.
Yeah, so remember, if you are a Patreon member, we guarantee that we will read your question on air. It gets prioritized to the very front. So if you'd like to check out how to be a Patreon member, you can go over to cantinacast.com/Patreon, and that'll take you over to all the different tiers that we have. If you feel so inclined, we'd love to have you on board with that, and you get exclusive content pretty much every week. We do live streams on Thursdays as well. So extra content, like how we were saying, we do a special focused episode with with one of the questions that we really, really particularly like, and that really needs a lot of extra attention, which we're going to get to here in just a few minutes. We'll tell you which one we're going to do.
Okay. Well, why don't you kick us off? Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So Risk Bayless. Hey, boys, I love you both. Oh, we love you too. Do you think we will see more of Hauser, or will we see an Ahsoka appearance? And this is related to Bad Batch.
So Hauser, will we see more of Hauser? I think the easy answer is yes. Where we see him, though, I think is really the question, because I would suspect that we're going to see him in season 2 of Bad Batch first and foremost. I would like to see him, and I think I'm speaking for all the clones when I say this. That sounded just funny because there's so many clones. Right. I think I do want to see Tamora Morrison play a clone in that's not like Jango Fett, not like Boba Fett, but like one of the more outgoing characters, right? Or just some that we can, we've heard him do it through. Well, he hasn't really done voice acting much. It's all been D. Bradley Baker, but having him step outside of that and really kind of give us something like that. So, somebody like Hauser. Probably not a huge step away from like, Jango Fett or Boba Fett. I guess he is. I mean, he's totally different. I should say, I take that back. He is. He's just very much more he's well reserved, right? So he's not really all the way out there. But the point is, I'd love to see him portray one of the clones. Pick any one of them. I don't really care. In the one of the live action series, and I think Ahsoka would make sense. I mean, there'd be an opportunity for them to play something like that. Although it's a little bit further set in time. All right, because we don't really know, do we? I guess. How far out exactly? But yeah, I mean that's who I'd like to say. So short answer again is we'll see him in Bad Batch, possibly in some of the live action ones. But if I'm just being honest, I'll take any clone in live action outside of Boba Fett and Jango. But what about you?
Right, especially Rex or Cody. Right, I'm actually super excited. Cody's going to be on one of the covers of Obi-Wan comic book. I think Hauser is very likely to come back on Bad Batch season 2, or even if there's a season 3, maybe. And I think it was great because Hauser was such a cool character where he was, able to reject the system, really reject his programming, and inspire others around him to do the same thing and do what really he, felt was right, even given the chip situation that they had. And so I really hope this character comes back in Bad Batch. I don't really have any expectations that Ahsoka would show up in Bad Batch, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of more mysterious if she's not there. But there's a whole slew of people that could show in Bad Batch because it's right in that really critical time after the Empire, things have dispersed, and all the cameos that you can bring into this, is we've already seen Hera, of course, and we could continue seeing some of those type of characters show up too.
Yeah. And I missed that part of it. Yeah, right. I didn't realize he was asking if we would see Ahsoka in the Bad Batch, and I would agree. Now, I don't think we'll see her, unfortunately. I think she's pretty tapped out. I mean, she's been in quite a bit now. And I think her story is going to be primarily focused on her series going forward. So, but you never know. Who knows?
What would be really, really interesting is if we see like a Boba Fett show up in the Bad Batch with Daniel Logan coming back and doing the voice. That would be interesting.
And we were on that. I think we were on that speculation wagon at one point during Bad Batch, and I mean everything was out there, like in terms of what we were speculating on happening with Bad Batch. But that'd be cool. Okay, good question. Thanks, Riss Bayless. Next up is our buddy Utini, and
he wrote a 2.5 page.
Yeah, it is a long. He's got some, and we're going to get in. I want to touch on some of this stuff because I think he makes some really good points, and it certainly reinforces.
What was great though is I was able to get it down till it really just one question of all the backstory Utini gave it, which is completely fantastic. By the way, if you want to send us a page and a half of stuff, go for it. We'll read it.
Yeah. Okay, so his question to you, Jonesy, not to me, is no, I'm kidding. How do you deal with the fun of talking about Star Wars as if it were an observable reality, while there is the constant push and pull and potential disconnect of canon and storytelling? And to kind of set the context here, what he's talking about is sometimes in canon, they will do something and then later on not do something. And they're not really breaking canon. They just didn't do it. And there's no explanation that's given to us as to why. And so how do we struggle with that?
Right. It would break the moment, right? Yeah.
Sure.
And he gave an example of like force running. You know, if Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon can leap out of the way super fast of, laser bolts on, in episode 1, why wouldn't they go and do it later on and they get captured or something like that, right? And this is something that I don't know about you, but I actually struggle with this a little bit because I have a very pragmatic and practical mind for the most part, to where I have to constantly pull myself back of saying, okay, well, no, they're doing this just because it only makes sense to do this in a movie or on a TV show. You just can't get away with, of this kind of storytelling in some way. But I think what usually pulls me back into it is I want to explore all of the detailed characters. And this is what Mike kind of, originated the show on, is that you almost have to suspend this reality. And while you can flirt with it and touch with it sometimes, you really gotta go right back into the story. And we really talk about, and I think Utini, we may have talked about this in Discord one time, really talking about, the characters and when you come into you do a podcast like we do, really you have to focus in on the character and on the story itself, rather than all of the things that go on around it. And we like to touch on cinematography and music and things like that because let's be honest, this stuff is amazing sometimes, right? Or often amazing. But what the show was really created based on was, what are the characters thinking? What are their motivations? And what are the possibilities and the potential that they have? And so that's one thing I have to constantly remind myself when I start going off on this tangent, or when we're preparing for the show and I'm getting too far into the real world type of thing. And, but there are certainly times where you have to break it apart and talk about the actual real life direction of the show. And I think some of that, especially if it's not working, or if it's not working maybe quite as well as we had hoped, I think that's where you definitely you end up kind of pulling out of that a little bit. But I think this is also why we're able to stay relatively, positive, and maybe just a gentle critique, or really just critiques. I won't say gentle, but because we're pretty fair. But I think that also helps us remain kind of keep that positive type of attitude and, focus again on what's going on in the story, less so than, do we love or hate this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because clearly we wouldn't be doing this if we hated it, but
yeah.
But what about you? How do you make that distinction? How do you keep yourself on task for some of that?
I'll say this: it is hard.
Talk about Dungeons and Dragons all the time.
like I don't. So it is very difficult because it gets frustrating at times.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself that, I just got to roll with a lot of this, and I have to remind myself that I can't take this too seriously. I can't take it too seriously in the context of the story, right? I take Star Wars too seriously because I'm doing a podcast and this is all I talk about and buy and everything else, right? I've already accepted that. I can't detach myself from that. But what I can do is ensure that I'm not, because I think it can become toxic, like self-toxicating in that you start to really second guess and question and poke holes in things and always come up with ways. And I see these folks on Twitter and Reddit and everywhere else, and it's just like, I don't understand, like, why are they so obsessed with Star Wars when it seems like all they really enjoy is tearing things down and disproving things. And I think to some extent, I like doing that. I think it's fun. Like I said, we've talked about
we could poke holes in stuff left and right if we wanted to.
Yeah, even the original trilogy, right?
Absolutely.
Whether you like that or not, or want to acknowledge it or not, you can definitely do that. But there comes a point when it just becomes toxic. There comes a point when it's no longer a positive reflection on the fandom. It's just you're pissing on things, excuse my language, right? And I just don't get that. And it seems like they constantly dwell on that. So anyways, going back to the question, it is difficult. And I think one of the more recent examples that we had, again, we brought her up. We didn't harp on it, but we brought her up, was during Book of Boba Fett. When he leaves and he's got those Scorpion droids that he's trying to contend with, he doesn't go get Slave One, right? That thing's fully armored. He could have easily taken those out. He went and got the Rancor. And so for the sake of the story, it was more important for him to bring the Rancor in because one had been promised to us. Two, they wanted to show that bond. It was fitting that a Mandalorian was now riding this great beast, a la the, not the Krayt Dragons, the Mythosaurs, right? Yeah. So all of that made sense. And so thematically, from a storytelling perspective, right, all of that made sense for him to go get the Rancor, although the more obvious and logical decision would have been able to go get, or would have been to go get his ship. And so sometimes, yeah, it's okay to bring that up and talk about it, and then you've just got to kind of push it off and move on with the story, because otherwise you're going to go down this horrible hole and, darkness, anger, hate, suffering, all that stuff Yoda talked about, really.
And that's why we like the Force healing episodes that we do, or our very first one on the Force and the different aspects of the Force, because those things are so easy to get entrenched in just the lore and the characters and your interpretation of it all. And you can block out all of the, the realistic aspects of it all. And you can just clearly just get enraptured in what you're talking about. And you don't have to even bring the other stuff into existence. Yeah. And so again, it's a frame of mind, I think, a bit too. And when we go into it, and this is why it's helpful to have notes every once in a while too, of, where do we not want to stray and where do we want to stray? And then where's our gray area that we're willing to flirt a little bit with too. But yeah, we're not that kind of show. And so for us, we do have to balance that out. Whereas other shows, like Art was saying, they're just happy to go in there and just talk about the creators less so than the story itself. And what's going on in that respect.
So there's another part in here that I want to just kind of tease out. It feels like this is a show coming down the road, but I do want to. I don't think we've had a chance to really kind of sit down and talk about the world between worlds. But just to one of his other examples, he said, when people speculate about how live action stories might go, the world between worlds often comes up. And while that would fit canon wise, I can never get on board because I don't see them ever introducing the Star Wars version of time travel in live action stories. And I agree. I think we've talked about this. Like, as much as I love that, as much as I love this and things like Mortis and what happened on Mortis, those are really cool things to talk about. They're cool to analyze and speculate and base less than sound theories on sometimes. But at the end of the day, they got to be real careful. And I think so far
it can be a plot hole minefield.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's so many things that you can start picking apart once this is opened up. And I think so far they've done a pretty good job of not going back to it, right? They brought her up. We have no reason to believe now Ahsoka could change all that. We'll see.
Sure.
And there's reason just based on the aesthetics that we're seeing now with like the logo and all that. It kind of echoes the world between worlds. But until that happens, I think they've done a pretty good job of staying clear of that. I mean, it doesn't even get mentioned, right? Like, even in like a passing in novels, right, or comic books of all things. Right. Like, those are the things you would think they would just show up on as little Easter eggs, and it doesn't. So that tells me that they are conscious of the power that exists with those types of things, and the unraveling of certain things that could happen as a result of bringing that forward and making it fully canonized and exploring possibilities. But man, once they do that, I mean, I'm sure, and again, I don't think they will. Personally, I don't think they ever will. Right. But maybe we should do I would like to do
it would be good to revisit that
on that. Yeah. So maybe somewhere down the road we can do some of that.
Yeah. So as usual, Utini, great question, and thank you for the well thought out examples and everything else to help us understand how to answer it. So our next one, Albert, is from Mr. Chris, and he actually had two, but one of them is a pretty special one. Do we want to go ahead and say what our Patreon show is, or we want to wait till the end?
No, we can do it now.
All right. So this is what he had to. I'm just going to read what he wrote to us, and this is what we're going to explore in the show. So I think this could be a fun exercise. So we have the Skywalker saga, 9 films made out of order and over decades, with the parameters of keeping as many of the story beats intact. Would you ever change, add, or what would you change, add, or remove to make the overall saga more cohesive, which is something that we've talked a lot about? For instance, if we lived in a universe where none of these films existed, you get to make all 9 basically Marvel style. How would you do it? Would you tell it 1 to 9? Would you tell it 4 to 6, then 1 to 3, then 7 to 9? What plot points would you emphasize, clear up, or even retell or foreshadow in a different way that makes it feel like one big cohesive 9-episode saga? He loves the way the saga, he does make a point. I love the saga the way it is, but thought it would be a fun exercise. I think it's a fantastic exercise. And this is why we want to dedicate a whole episode to it. And we're going to go step by step, episode by episode, and talk about this. And this is going to be like a 17-hour show. It's going to be great.
It's going to be a series of shows. Yeah. So if you didn't catch that, I guess the question is, if we had the opportunity to go redo all of these 9 movies, how would we go about doing it? What order, and how would we change things up? So I've been having fun with that one. So I've started jotting down some loose ideas, but I am going to spend some time tonight and tomorrow night just plowing through.
It is a rabbit hole, to be sure.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful,
right?
Yeah, we got to keep a little bit at the higher 30,000 foot level and dig in only to the pieces that really, kind of really trigger people.
Yeah, and it's exactly, and you've got to be like, the thing that I've been struggling with is like, I have to be sensitive to what's come before. All right, and I don't want to tick anybody off, and be respectful to the series, but I want to still maintain, that feel and all that. And so I'm not trying to do anything radical. Like, I'm not going to start changing, characters left.
The
and
really
right, but
challenging part of that, though, is if you make one change, what's the ripple effect?
Mm-hmm.
What are all the other things now that you have to adjust as a result, right? And so that's it's a fun exercise, but you could really quickly spiral out of control, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I've kind of lost the threads that made this the original trilogy, and in the whole process, if I start tweaking, the original the prequels too much, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay, but let's get to the real questions. So that's what we're going to do on Thursday. No issues notwithstanding. We will do that on Thursday. But so here's his other one, though. So in honor of the Obi-Wan series, let me pose a question. What do you think was going through his mind? What were his motivations for just leaving Anakin on the shore of the lava river after slicing and dicing his limbs? Like, why not put his friend out of his misery, or does he want him to suffer?
Oh boy, this is actually a really good question as well.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure how we would kind of turn this into an episode, but the novel Brotherhood now.
I'm glad you brought it. I was going to bring it up.
I'll let you dig and tell it more because you're further than I am, but no spoilers. But there are certain parts in there that make me think about this now in a different context, right? Or added context about that. Okay, so why would someone? I mean, the short answer is I don't know. Like, I can't think of a really good reason why. Well, I have a reason. I can't think of a good reason that I've been able to justify in my own head, because if you think about the Jedi themselves and what they are all about, somebody in that condition is suffering, and they need help. And we've seen now, especially like when you think about the High Republic, there are examples in Legends where people have brought back, or at least not brought back people, but they've helped people that have crossed over to the dark side. Right? There's nothing that's happened in Star Wars that would lead us to think that someone's not redeemable or someone can't be saved. And yet Obi-Wan Kenobi in this moment decided to just turn his back and walk away. Right? I mean, at the surface, that's exactly what it looks like.
Right.
Now, the way I would rationalize this, at least in my own head, and I think maybe this is where he was coming from, right or wrong, though, right? Like, and I want to be clear, like, I don't know that was the right decision. And I don't think we can really hold Obi-Wan too accountable for making that wrong decision. Got to realize what was going on, right? There was a lot that had happened. He'd just seen the fall of the Jedi Order for the most part. All the atrocities that happened with Vader, potentially Padme laying there dead with the baby, all that had happened. He's just gone through a fight with his Padawan, his younger brother, his his brother, I guess, right?
Right.
And that emotionally, knowing that he was trying to kill him, like it was kill or be killed kind of situation. And we don't know exactly. Even I need to get a chance to go back to look in Revenge of the Sith in novelization, but we don't know. I can't remember that he ever has a passing thought or senses what Anakin's true intentions are outside of just the obvious and what's on the surface, meaning he's trying to kill him. But in that moment, if he'd already gone through all of that and he did that to him, he may have felt that was the most merciful thing that he could do, was to allow him to die. Now, why didn't he go and just stab him, kill him, put him out of his misery? That's another good question. I mean, you could argue that the lava was there. Maybe there's a safety concern. I don't know. But putting somebody down like that too, I just don't see a Jedi doing that. Like, I don't think he could bring himself to do that, right?
Agreed.
Even with everything that had just happened, I don't think he could do that. So the only thing that he could do was look at him and assess that, okay, he's not going to make it. And I think had Palpatine not shown up, and of course Kenobi didn't know this, had Palpatine not showed up, he would have just burned there. There was nothing else that would have stopped him. So I think in his mind, he walked away saying, look, he's irredeemable. He's completely gone to the dark side. Saving him would just be a path more like, what do you do with him?
Yeah.
The Jedi are gone. There's no order. They've all been wiped out. The galaxy's an array, and I'm going to bring this burnt person that wants to kill me at every turn of the second, every second here, and try to nurture him back to health and life. And his whole thing was about self-preservation, right or wrong. Again, I think it was about self-preservation and acknowledging that person that he knew is gone, was completely gone. That was the only way he could he had to have completely detached himself emotionally, psychologically, physically, in every way for him to be able to walk out like that. And I think he did. And I think it was probably, again, more of a self-preservation and method that he was trying to employ. But that's kind of my thoughts. What about yours?
Yeah, a lot of the same type of thing. And I think just to kind of add or supplement some of that, I think, again, we won't get into spoilers of Brotherhood, but I think some of the things that we're learning about Obi-Wan, or really confirming with Obi-Wan, is that he very much values life. He doesn't want to take a life if he doesn't have to. And maybe some clones notwithstanding at Order 66. But
well, let's say he's taking lives.
Right, yeah. And again, I think with the bond that him and Anakin have, he's always got this hope that Anakin's going to make the right decision. And when you couple that, and you can clearly say he doesn't want to have this fight with Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, right? I mean, he doesn't want to have it. And even at the very end, he's like, just don't do it. Don't take this risk, because it's just not going to end well for you. And I'm with you. I think he left him for dead because he thought he was a goner, and Ken actually made this, no limbs and in lava equals dead. And that's probably what Obi-Wan was doing. But I think even with Yoda, he's having this conversation with Yoda saying that, I can't kill Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think of him as he's not Anakin anymore.
Right.
But Obi-Wan's in the state of grief too. And it just, to bring yourself to do that type of thing is, I think that's just a line that Obi-Wan could never cross. Of course, he's killed people before, but killing his best friend, killing his brother, I think is just something that he would not be able to do. It probably just tore him apart, that he tore him apart.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word. So, but again, I think you kind of summarized it that way. But if you guys go check out Brotherhood, I think it'll shed some additional light on some of what we're talking about as we kind of beat around the bush on spoilers. And we're not really missing much, but you just get a better vibe for who Obi-Wan is and what he's willing to give people chance-wise in order to not, basically put a bullet in their head type of experience. So I think if you read the book, you'll understand some of that stuff a little bit better, even though I think we have a pretty good idea who Kenobi is, right?
Yeah, for sure. Right. And I mean, he's not, in my opinion, like he is, let's say, I would say he's not necessarily a new level of Jedi compared to those of the High Republic. He feels like an extension of that in a lot of ways.
A lot of ways, yeah.
And I think this is one of those ways that has carried over. Like Mace Windu, we know would have done it. Like, at least in my opinion, I think he would have done that.
No, I mean, Mace can't stand Anakin anyway. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that aside, but I mean, he was ready to take Palpatine out, right?
Right.
So in his mind, it's different. It's just a different mindset. And so Mace, I would consider somebody to be kind of different. There are probably other Jedi out there that we could categorize and compartmentalize into this group of people that are this new wave of thinking of, how do we, because I mean, not to get into this, but like the whole reason, one of the main reasons that the Jedi are in the problems that they're in during the High Republic is because they take this line of ethical decisions. Like, we can't just go kill people right or left. That's just not who we are. And I think as the Jedi started to mold, right or wrong, people like Mace Windu said, well, you know what? It's not that black and white, and it can't be that black and white. It has to be gray. It has to be situational, and we have to be better in analyzing and assessing those situations to make the right decisions rather than just sticking to a hard line of, no, I'm not going to go kill somebody because even if they are defenseless, right? That's the difference. And so for Obi-Wan, like I said, he feels like an extension of the Jedi from the High Republic, where somebody like Mace Windu, not so much. Okay, well, I've said my piece on that one. I think there was I lost my train of thought. There was one other thing I was going to bring up, and I forget now, but it doesn't matter. Okay, let's move on to the next question, and this is from Lauren. She asked, "What are your top 3 all-time favorite Star Wars novels, and why, if there's time?" And of course, there's time. We can talk about the whys. But go ahead. You go first.
Why don't we alternate?
Top 3.
We'll alternate here. How about that?
Do you want to start from the bottom up then?
I can't rank. I'm not going to rank them. I'm just going to say here.
What? That's the question. She said you have to. Lauren's
no, she said top 3. You didn't say I had to rank them.
Oh, okay. Lauren, type in there that you want them ranked. Okay, no, go ahead. Give me one of them. Fine, whatever.
Okay.
Jonesy.
Well, in mine, this is more of a series, but the Republic Commando books are some of my favorites, especially those early ones. And the reason why is that you really get this. It was their first really great look into the life of not even a clone trooper, but just the special forces type of thing, and their interactions with the Jedi, their relationships with the people, and how they feel so disconnected, and and how those evolve. And also, I think the best part of those Republic Commando books were the Mandalorian culture and lore that they expanded on immensely, and they ended up rolling into some of the Boba Fett stuff too. And that was the one thing. Karen Travis was the author. And I know I've spoken about this at length. Probably it's been a while, but on the show. But man, these books were really, really good. A lot of military stuff in there. If you like that type of thing, I struggle following some of that, but it was very well and very soundly written. But the relationships, again, are the things that are most important in Star Wars, right? And it was the relationships between clones and the Jedi, as well as just the Mando way of life, and what it meant to be a Mando. And that created our baseline for what it meant to be Mandalorian, which is why there was such a disconnect when Clone Wars came out with Satine, with the Mandalorians wanted to go, what's the word? Neutral, I guess.
Yeah. Right. They weren't really aligned per se.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want me to give you mine?
Yeah. Go for one.
Okay. So one of them, I'm not saying it's number 3, but it could be number 3.
I already know what your number 1 is.
You already know what my number 1. You probably know what my number 2 is too, because I've talked about both of those on the air, and they interchange. And Lauren brings up a good point. She says your top 3 can rotate. Yeah. I would. My 1 and 2 don't normally rotate, but my number 3 and
it's a revolving door with all the new stuff too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like 3 through 97. It just depends on how I'm feeling. Whatever. But for so I picked Path of Destruction, and I don't know. I mean, that whole series, the whole Bane series, is incredible. If you've never had a chance to read it, I keep saying this, but there feels like there is some another show on the horizon where we get into this. We got a chance to talk about it in the Rule of 2, and kind of go through just getting inside the head of Bane and understanding how he works. And we
have another question along those lines later on the show.
I know. It was just weird how these came in. But when I think I've mentioned this before too, but I enjoy like knowing the origins of things and understanding the whys and hows, and kind of seeing how history developed in real life and in Star Wars, probably more in Star Wars. And this was an opportunity to kind of see where the Sith started and how all that came about. And then of course, leading up into Revan and all that. So I would say Path of Destruction, that whole series is probably what I'm on currently as my number 3 right now. But we'll see how it is tomorrow morning. Go ahead. Give me another.
In my number 3 slot, I usually reserve that for newer books. And I had a really hard time deciding this because I really loved Midnight Horizon, and I really, really loved Thrawn Ascendancy, Lesser Evil, Book 3. I love that. I mean, it was really, really
book 3.
Yeah, book 3 with the audiobook and everything. I loved it. I don't know what it struck with me. So I have kind of a tie between Midnight Horizon, which I thought was just exceptional fun. And I just haven't had that much fun reading a Star Wars book in a long time. And it just elicited that type of, feeling from me to where it's like, I just want to read this because it's just, man, I'm just having a great time.
Yeah.
And then as I'm listening to the Ascendancy book, though, and the series was good, it was really good, but Lesser Evil, for whatever reason, it just ticked all the right things for me. Pacing, it was long, but it was great pacing, and the resolution and some of that was it all just kind of hit those right marks. So kind of a tie for third place, but I reserve that third spot for kind of that rotating of newer material and what's striking a chord with me these days.
JW's not here tonight, but he'd love you right now. He'd give you a big hug for saying Thrawn Ascendancy, but go on. So what's your next question there?
Nope, that's it.
Or your next. Oh,
so what's your number 2 today?
Oh, so you're saying Thrawn Ascendancy is your number 2?
Oh, no. This is kind of like tied for third because I told you I wasn't going to do top 3.
Oh, okay.
I'm bouncing around now. I am going to say my number 1 is very clear though.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say if I was to tell you my number 2, although it could not be, it's Heir to the Empire.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. I've said this before. I've been pretty consistent. Like, and it may waver. I don't know. We'll have to see. But Heir to the Empire, and really the whole series.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I was sitting here answering this question and like psychoanalyzing myself. I had a really deep conversation with myself with this question for some reason, but
I have a feeling this isn't abnormal.
No, it's not. But it's similar to when I talk about my favorite movie of all time. What's my favorite? Do you know, Jonesy? What's my favorite movie of all time?
Oh my gosh, I do know this.
I've told you before.
I can't remember.
It's Raiders.
Raiders Lost Ark. Yeah.
Okay. And most people would think, what? Not Star Wars. And it's not Star Wars. And the reason why, and it's the same reason why Heir to the Empire and my number 1 books are kind of there where they are, is I tend to like merge the book or whatever form of media it is with what's going on in my life at the time, right? It's the experience of it all that usually is what I go with, rather than if I try to be more objective about it. And I tend to get the experiences tend to creep in a lot more. So what I'm saying is with Heir to the Empire, that was a book that I felt like we needed that book at the time.
It was such an important
so long
book.
with no Star Wars, nothing of really merit or to talk about, right? The dark times, if you will. And this book comes along, and suddenly I got all my characters back, all my characters that I grew up with. I got storytelling that was really great. We had the cool cover art. There was it was right around the time also that the West End game, role-playing game, I was playing that quite a bit. It was just a really good time in my life for Star Wars. Like I was, independent, and I could spend money on stupid things like, $20 t-shirts and, role-playing games and books and all this stuff. And just, I don't know, it's just something about that time, that era of time, coupled with the fact that it's a great book. It had lots of good stuff. I mean, the storytelling was great. The pacing was great. Nobody knew who this author was when it came out. There was, new villains that were introduced. The characters read like the characters from the movies themselves. So it didn't feel disconnected in that sense, but it's just something about that era. And it's something about reading this book during that time, or all 3 of the books really, but Heir to the Empire especially, that just really struck a chord with me. And it forever stayed as my number 1 until about, last year, I guess, when it fell off, but more on that later. All right. So what about you?
Okay. So honorable mentions, because we're going to delay the first. So there was actually, Ken brought it up. He brought Vector Prime up. Really, New Jedi Order, the series. I have a lot of complaints about New Jedi Order series, first of all. But for me, it was a very similar story. That's how I got back into Star Wars, and that's how I got into reading Star Wars again. I would read some of the books like Shadow of the Empire or Shadows of Mendor, or some of these other books that had come out various times. But really, New Jedi Order, and reading that continuous story of expanded universe canon at the time, and a consistent, continuance of the story, I loved. I loved the idea of Yuuzhan Vong. I thought they were a fantastic idea. So that was one series I really liked. But I think the other one that's really a great honorable mention is Bloodlines by Claudia Gray. I think it's such a it's such a great book because Claudia Gray is amazing. But it was also another really important book that gave us insight into Leia, but also some of these in-between spaces that we had of how things fit together. And so I kind of along the lines of Heir of the Empire, I just feel it's one of those required readings, even though Heir of the Empire is not canon anymore. It's still just required reading, I think. If you're a Star Wars fan, you owe it to yourself to go and revisit some of this stuff. And Bloodlines is one of those that you can't go wrong with that book and referring it to really anybody that's a Star Wars fan. Any honorable mentions for you? Anything that didn't make the list, but I know that's probably about 50 deep, but a couple top others. I mean, things like Rising Storm is another good one, but
yeah, I'll throw a couple out there. Midnight Horizon. I don't want to not talk about that one. Pretty amazing book that just recently came out.
Yeah.
Other books that have that struck a chord with me. Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster.
Yeah.
Again, another interesting book that came out in a very different time. Originally, that book was written because, well, to be honest, he wasn't sure if he was going to do a second movie, and he wanted to do something that could be easily adapted into a TV series. And when you read that book, it's Star Wars, but they really don't go a lot of places. And a lot of it was because he needed to stay grounded, literally, because he wasn't sure he'd be able to afford these extravagant sets and all of that. So it is a very different kind of story. And some of what we know today to be canon, and certainly stuff that was changed. That was like the first time that Legends suddenly was changed completely. Not completely, but there were some things that they just said, nope, that was cool, but that's really not how it works. This is how it works. And But yeah, not to be overlooked. And it's not a very long read. It's actually a pretty quick one. So check that one out. I would agree. Bloodline is pivotal, especially when it came out. I'm going to say I got maybe two, three more that I would say honorable mentions. I'm going to say the Aftermath series, because we're going to talk about this here in a little bit. I don't, when people ask me what should I go read for Star Wars, it's not one of the first series that I save that for later. Once you've been hooked, and you've got a bit of a tolerance built up, then maybe it's okay to recommend that trilogy, because I think it does get better about midway through the second book, and then really by the third book, it's actually really good, much better than the first one. It's just that first one. But what I don't think gets appreciated is the amount of world building, and we're starting to see more and more of that pay off. And we're going to talk again a little bit here about where some of this is paying off for it. But that's a series that I think is kind of pivotal and needs to be explored by anyone, really, if you're a big Star Wars fan, and especially if you're into everything that happened post Return of the Jedi. That's definitely a series that you want to take a look at.
So, Albert, one of our astute listeners has sent us a correction via text message to me.
Yeah.
You guys always call that book Bloodlines by Claudia Gray. It's just Bloodline, by the way. Yes. It's just... Yeah. Sometimes it slips out. I know it's Bloodline, but it comes out. So thank you, astute listener.
Let's see. Where was I? There was another book that I was going to mention. So another book is probably a more recent one too, but what is it? Rebel Rising.
Yeah.
This is
the prequel. So no, that was Catalyst.
No, the Catalyst is the prequel to Rogue One. Rebel Rising is the one about Jyn Erso and kind of what happened with her when she was a child and her growing up and all that, and Saul Guerrero, that relationship. And that was just that whole daughter and father and daughter relationship that she was kind of focusing on in that series or that book was awesome. I really enjoyed that book. I don't think it gets a lot of credit as well. So that's another one there. Okay. Can I give you my number two or my number one?
Yep. We're up to the top slot.
Do you know what it is?
Now I'm in the dark a little bit, but if it's in the last year or so, it's Rising Storm.
It's the Rising Storm.
Yeah.
And I say that, it's a Rising Storm. No, I didn't mean it that way. It is the Rising Storm. Man, where to start? Okay, so for the Rising Storm.
What episode should they just go check out, Albert?
Right. Well, it's got everything that you would want, in my opinion. It's got everything you want from Star Wars, but in a book form, right? You've got great characters. You've got great dialogue. It's super easy to read. The way he writes it, Cavan Scott, very, very easy. It doesn't get bogged in he doesn't get bogged down in the details. He keeps it moving. The pace is going on. You've got different fronts that are happening. It's complex, but it's not complicated in terms of how the plot's set up. We've got introductions to new villains. It was, you think about it again, going back to what I said, it's always about the experience. And we were coming off the high of Wave 1. Was not expecting to read this. And I remember reading we got a preview copy I think this is when I was coming back from, was it Celebration that we got the preview copy for this one?
No,
that was too far back.
Yeah.
It was somewhere I was traveling, but I remember I was on the plane and I had it, and I had a PDF, and I wanted to text you so bad, but I had no signal. But there were so many things that were happening. I think when I finally got off the plane, I ended up texting you some of the things. But I've never been that excited about turning a page on a book and being surprised by one more thing after another. The only thing that I could even compare that to was Heir to the Empire. That was the last time I had experienced reading a book like that. And it's so funny because I know since then, Cavan Scott is even in the credits for The Ride and Storm. He tributes Heir to the Empire as being one of his big influences.
And you can feel it
for
throughout that book. Yeah.
Throughout the book. Great exposition. I mean, it's got suspense. It's got humor. There's a bit of horror. Just in some ways, it's got lighter moments. It's definitely got darker moments as well. I don't know. It's a very well balanced book.
Yeah.
In terms of in book in general, not just Star Wars. So, yeah, for me, it kind of usurped, Heir to the Empire, at least for now. But I have a feeling it's going to take a while. I think those two are just going to maybe toggle back and forth between 1 and 2 for me for quite some time until, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe something phase 2 or phase 3.
Yeah, Rising Storm. I mean, again, I hated having it as an honorable mention, and I really probably should just put it tied for 3 along with like 14 other books. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Rising Storm is just an amazing, amazing book, and easily one of the best books we've had, I think, in the last several years from an overall everything, to it. Yep. And one of the fastest reads, I think, besides Midnight Horizon, it was one of the fastest reads I think we've had it in several years. My top one is not a surprise for anybody that's listened to the show for all of 20 minutes, is a Dark Disciple. And so this is the Quinlan Vos, Asajj Ventress, and even some Obi-Wan Kenobi in there. And again, I've got the cover up because it's going to come up again here in a little bit. But,
sorry.
No, that's fine. So yeah, this book is, again, it's all about relationships. Asajj Ventress is, after, down and out. She's on the outs with Dooku. She hates him, wants to kill him. Vos is, with the psychometry and, just has to learn from her. They have to team up, but you also, so not only do you get the whole Asajj Ventress, she becomes much more human, but you get this relationship between them. But then you also have this great relationship between Obi-Wan and Quinlan Vos. Mm-hmm. And in Vos's, place in the order and what they view him as. And, it's just a really great relationship type of book. And you also get to learn like the punishment that Count Dooku doles out to Asajj Ventress and what it's like to be a Sith assassin or in pseudo apprentice, right?
Yeah.
And just how quickly that could be taken away from you. Now, there are plenty of campy moments in this book. Make no mistake. What was Quinlan Vos's name? Commander something ridiculous. I don't know. It was one of the dumbest names that had come up in a while.
Yeah.
But no. So this is by Christy Golden, but it's a fantastic, fantastic book. This was actually storyboarded, and I think rough animation was for the Clone Wars, and then they made it into a book. And the book is just, I can't recommend it high enough, especially if you love these types of relationships. And if you have any interest in Asajj Ventress, I'm kind of I don't know, obsessed with Asajj Ventress. My car's name is Ventress because it's it's a thing with me. I don't know. And so having her pop up in Brotherhood has just rekindled it. I've got a little Ventress stuff later on too for you too. It's gonna be fun.
Interesting.
But yeah, so Dark Disciple for me because I'm a softie.
I call my car Scissor Punch.
Good old Therm.
Named after Therm Scissor Punch from, was it, what was that from?
That was from
which
Solo
movie? Oh, was it
Star
Solo?
Wars story.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm wearing the shirt. What a coincidence.
Okay.
No, well, just quickly, just as I was gonna say on Dark Disciple, if you want to go see the rough animation stuff that Jonesy's talking about, go out to YouTube. It's still out there. You can watch some of those. And I really hope, I would love for them to just finish that stuff. You know what I mean? And put it out there.
Yeah.
There's other episodes too, other pieces that could probably be redone as part of some anniversary special or something, but it would be cool to see that one. And I could honestly, Ventress is a cool character. I've always liked her, but that book just takes it up to a new level. Like, you really have a different appreciation for her at that point. And by the time you get to that last season, not last season, was it season 5 of Clone Wars? Or when Ahsoka leaves and that whole thing, it changes your perspective on Ahsoka. How about on Asajj Ventress? How about that?
Yeah,
going back and watching them.
She's such a complex character once you get past some of it, and it's just, she's just so fantastic. It's one of the best characters from the Filoni era, as far as I'm concerned, that's been created. Yep. Okay, Albert, we got a bunch of questions left, so let's keep moving forward. And this one's a fun one. Are you ready?
I don't understand. I'm not ready for this question.
You're not ready for this one. Okay, well, all right. So Stephanie asked, if you could pick the perfect cosplay for your co-host, what would it be? And then what about gender bent cosplay as well? I had to get her to explain this to me because I was ignorant. And so I was like, hey, what's gender bent cosplay? She goes, well, it's when you have a female character and you make, you convert them into a male, or a male character and you convert them into female or something like that. Hopefully I got that right. Because clearly I still don't understand it very well. But anyway, do you have an answer? I have an answer for this question.
Oh, really?
I have all the answers. I know exactly what you would be if you were cosplaying.
I hope it's Cassian Andor, given the color of my skin, but
nope.
I don't think that's going to be it.
Nope.
Okay, so I have to answer for you, right? Somebody that I want to, you're going to cosplay as this character.
Yes.
And I can pick Obi-Wan though, right? Because like later
on,
there's
a question you can, yes.
But for the other question, I can't.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll stay clear of the obvious answer, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think you're like 99% there. Work on your British accent, and I think you're okay.
All right.
But if I had to pick somebody other than that for you to cosplay, I'm gonna go with Admiral Wolf Yularen. Because there's a reason though. I thought about this. I actually put some thought into this. So if you're not familiar with who he is,
the Clone Wars have erupted.
There you go. Oh. That's it. Because you do a good Tom Kane. I was thinking, he does a really good Tom Kane voice, and I was like, oh wait, Tom Kane did Yularen in the Rebels, right? Yularen, so that one he did in Clone Wars too.
Yeah, he did
as well. So, but yeah, I think you're there. So now you've got that. So you just got to get, you don't have to cut your hair. You'll have to get one of those like creepy thin line, mustaches above your lip there. But I think other than that, I think you got the voice down, dude.
Fantastic. Okay. So for you, Albert, I'll give you a pick between two, either a Jawa or an Ewok. And there's a reason for this. Don't take offense. I see the face you're making, but I don't. Story for everyone. When we met up in Chicago for Celebration, the very first night, the Earglue Media team all met up at this arcade. Albert, like usual, showed up really late. And so what happened is we're all playing games. Albert shows up. And he just starts tackling people around the machine and taking pictures and surprising them. So this reminded me of, like, this is what an Ewok or a Jawa would do. And Albert could just run around a convention playing gags on people and creating other chaos. And I could just hear him giggling and running off afterwards. And people were like, that damn Ewok just slapped a Cantina cast on my backside, type of thing. And I could just see you causing commotion.
So you want to know a little inside secret?
I know you're used to wearing
there were, yeah. So there used to be a number of years ago, for a very long time, I was an actor at SeaWorld, and I would do, I did like mime, I did costume characters, I did dances, I did dancing, I did acting, singing, I did the whole thing. And I've got pictures out there that if you pay me enough money, I'll show you. But I actually enjoy doing that. And I would do that. Like I'd get in a character costume or dress up in mime.
You troll them.
Go around and pretty much troll them the entire time. So it's not uncharacteristic of me. How about that?
Right.
So, okay, I'll take that. I mean, at least, people wouldn't know it's me if I'm in one of those costumes. So
right.
I appreciate that.
And you're not as tall, so it kind of works. Okay. Gender bent cosplay though. Okay. So if I was going to do gender bent cosplay, I would want to do Aphra, Kira, or Ventress because, Ventress is just the coolest design. Now, if I had to pick one for you, or I picked two for you, actually, I would want to see you either as Sy Snoodles or Ula.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, Jonesy.
You don't have to feel anyway. Ula. You just have to accept it. Just let it wash over you. You will wake up in the middle of the night. Just don't tell your wife.
In a cold sweat.
Probably.
Cold sweat.
We've lost like 12 listeners.
Exactly. They're dropping off now. I didn't put a lot of thought into this question because I didn't really understand. Like, I thought it was like, you're going to be dressed as a female character.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's not,
but you would make a male version of it. Yeah.
Well, see, I didn't go that far. All I put the frog lady from Mando. Because I don't want you to be anybody that's hot because that'd be really weird, So yeah, you can be a frog and you're fine. Or Yaddle.
Yaddle.
Or Maz Kanata. That's who it is. It's Maz Kanata, but as a dude. Let's get that one.
Will you be Will you be my Chewbacca?
No.
Oh, damn.
You can be creepy though. That gives you a full.
That does give me full license. Yeah.
Yep, full reign to be creepy.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Stephanie, for the fun question.
Don't ever do that again, Stephanie. Thank you. Though.
Okay.
Is it my turn to ask you a question now?
I think so. Yeah. For Malice.
Okay. For Malice says the obvious connective tissue between Kenobi and Rebels are the Inquisitors. As the Inquisitors scour the galaxy in search of Obi-Wan, I can't help but think that we'll get a Rebels character cameo or two. Who do you guys think that will be? If so, Jonesy, who do you got?
So I think it's pretty possible, and I would like to see like a teenage Kanan or a teenage Hera. Actually, Hera seems to be someone that's potentially more logical, just because we've seen her in other material. We've seen her in Bad Batch, and so I think this is something that you could potentially pop up in kind of a background type of thing. Now, I think a deeper cut though would be Ezra's parents. Would be pretty interesting. Again, not necessarily in the series a lot, but talked about a lot. But Ezra's parents would actually be pretty interesting to see what they were up to. Again, how do you fit that in story-wise and all of that good stuff? It's you have to massage some things pretty well. But yeah, we got 6 episodes. They got time to burn. What Boba Fett? This is what Boba. Oh yeah, I see what I did there. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan likes burning things. But yeah, so deeper cut would be Ezra's parents. That would be pretty interesting. What about you?
Okay. Well, no surprise, but I'm a big Rebels fan.
Yeah.
And I've thought about this question a lot, like way too much, like obsessed over this question. And I think, so I'm going to say something that may be controversial.
You say that all the time and then it's not.
I know. Well, I think it is.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. Well, yeah, maybe it's not, but I don't think we're going to see, I do not think we're going to see anybody from Rebels on the Rebel Alliance side. Here's why. I think it's like what you just said. It's too messy. Like, how do you?
Yeah.
You've got Kenobi as the titular character. He's in hiding, incognito, right, running around the galaxy. And maybe as a conversation, the only person that I would expect him to be in contact with is someone like Bail Organa. I don't even feel like he would be in contact with Fulcrum or anyone else that's going around at this time, right? So the minute you put that in there, I think it becomes very difficult to suddenly write something that makes sense where suddenly Hera or even the I'm trying to think other people that were out like like Lando and Leia and these characters are all in there.
Yeah.
Zeb, right? I mean, that would be another one. I think it's very difficult to work them in outside of a cameo, and by a cameo I mean a true cameo, not a
background
part of the plot.
Character. Yeah.
Yes, or a mention of some sort. Right? I just can't see that happening. Now that said, I do see where there's an opportunity to bring in some of the Imperial characters that we got from Rebels, like an Agent Kallus or a Governor Price, right? These characters could be in the background. They could have a couple lines. They could be referenced. They cut over to them. Governor Price is calling the shots. Of course, she's a little bit younger in this series now. I mean, you could even, that wouldn't do this, but I mean, somebody like Admiral Thrawn.
I was about to say, right? You could get a passing reference to Thrawn.
Yeah. So I think it's easier to get there and answer when you look at the Imperial sides of things. But I think if I had to pick my choice or my pick between all three of those is Agent Kallus. Like Kallus would be a cool way to introduce him. Doesn't have to have a lot of limelight. He could be an up and coming. Yeah. At this point in Kenobi.
Yeah. 10 years younger than where he's at in Rebels.
Yeah. I mean, he's got, I mean, I don't know.
I guess Rebels is about 3 years before A New Hope, right?
I think it's supposed to be, 3.
So he's still he'd be pretty young, but yeah, so he would fit though.
Yeah, he could be like a cadet or somebody, or not a cadet, but just someone that's very early on.
Someone
lieutenant of
still
some
coming
sort,
up,
right?
Yeah. Kallus would be a good one. Yeah.
But it wouldn't be like in your face either. Like I for timing reasons,
Well, and again, because we know the antagonists are going to be the Inquisitors, right? So anytime you start interjecting more, it would definitely be a cameo.
Well, they're going to and see, I feel like they're going to peel off like at some point, because the Grand Inquisitor has to live, right? Because he's got to go on to fight Kanan, and Kanan's going to kill him and all that stuff. So at some point, my gut tells me, well,
he didn't really kill him either.
Yeah, whatever.
There are things worse than death.
Yeah, he let himself go, and because he didn't want to face Vader after he had failed.
He paid the price for that decision too.
Yeah.
Read the comics,
I know what you're I know what you're talking about. Okay, so they've got to go on. So I have a feeling at some point in the series, probably by episode 3, maybe, episode 4, I think Vader's going to step in and say, I've got it from here. And I don't know that we're going to get the Inquisitors right through for all the way to the end. We may still get a couple of them and they become fodder or something. Who knows?
I think
Reva, I think is in for
survive.
Well, as I say, Reva, I think is in it for probably the long run until she dies in some way.
And the sister they didn't name, she's probably short timer.
She's fodder. Yeah, she's not going to make it. But I think the Grand Inquisitor and all those guys, they're gonna bounce. Yeah. So there's more opportunity. Where I was going, I'm trying to think, where was I going with that? Oh, so there's more opportunity, I think, for people like just the normal Empire people that are report up to Vader or his lackeys to suddenly take more spotlight, right? Even though they haven't shown us that, there's an opportunity there for it. So, all right, so maybe not controversial. Maybe not. Maybe it was more not the. If it were me, I'd love to have everybody. Let's just bring the whole Rebels. Bring in another season. But
you just didn't want to disappoint Twan because he's like you. He loves Rebels.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys bond over that. Okay. Thank you to Twan. All right. So Imperial Moonwalker, which Star Wars Legends book would you like to see reissued, and who would you handpick to draw the new cover? Trick question. Because Path of Destruction is near perfection and should get a third release with John Alvin resurrected to draw the cover as a movie poster. So for those that don't know, John Alvin is an iconic illustrator and movie poster who's done movie posters for Alien, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, E.T., Blade Runner, Blazing Saddles, Empire of the Sun. Got so many iconic.
Princess Bride.
Yeah, I mean, just so many iconic movie posters over the years, and he unfortunately passed away several years ago. But so anyway, what is your book that should be reissued, and then who should do the drawings, the drawings?
The drawings. Wow, that one's a difficult one to answer because we've already talked about a lot of the books that we've enjoyed, and I would like to see them. Honestly, I know this is probably not a popular answer. But I enjoyed like the Brian Daley series of the Han Solo books. Not canon anymore, of course, at all. But I mean, there's just something special about those and like the Lando series that came out. Again, I'm dating myself here because these books came out like in the late 70s, early 80s, and a lot of people don't really read them these days. But I would love to see them reissue those. I know they've done it; they've reissued them before. But I'd like to see those reissued as a collective, maybe like this, like an omnibus or some massive collection or whatever, hardback or something like that. But if I had to pick an artist, and I know it's we were talking about this before we came on the air because I spoiled it. I was trying to show Jonesy. But if Albert doesn't pick me to draw the cover, I'm going to cry. Go cry yourself a river, dude. You're not drawing the covers to this. That's my brother. But no, I'm kidding. I love his work. He's an amazing artist. Go check him out. But yeah, I would pick Drew Struzan.
Yeah.
And Drew Struzan, again, is, you talk about John Alvin. Yeah, Drew Struzan's right up there. Same thing with like Tom Jung, Ralph McQuarrie is another one, right? These are all famous people around the same time too that they were cranking out. You got to remember, around this time, we didn't have the internet. Like if you think about like 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even up until the 90s, there was no internet. So how did you know about movies? You knew about movies through the newspaper, and a lot of times you wanted to go see a movie based on these movie posters that were being put in the newspaper. So you would look at that and go, wow, that artwork looks awesome. I think I'm going to go see this movie. Right. And so that's how, you got Raiders and all the movies that we just listed off. I won't go back and list them all, but that's what you would honestly go off. It was like, it's like picking a book, you would go off a book off of its cover. You were going off these movie posters, and there's been famous people out there that have really talked about Struzan's work and Alvin's work and said that these guys were, like Spielberg himself said, they were the first people that told my story.
Right.
Yes, my story stands alone. The writing, directing, all that's incredible, but they were key to bringing people into those movies because it was at first impression. And so I've got a picture up that I'm showing now of Struzan's work. He did this kind of like Lucasfilm tribute where you've got like, all of his movies really. I mean, you got even Lucas in the background here. That's a famous picture of him holding that camera up. But you've got Star Wars, Indiana Jones, that whole series there. You've got Willow down there in the bottom left-hand corner. Quite a few of them, but he's done other works as well. Obviously, if you've ever seen, I pulled up his Facebook page, and there's people liking my stuff there. But yeah, like he even did some of like the episode 2 poster, episode 1 poster. He did those, the Raiders. I mean, go on and on. So it's an obvious choice.
He's a Lucasfilm legend for posters, and you just can't go wrong with Drew Struzan. I actually got to meet him once.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, that was cool.
Harry Potter, you did those too. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, good stuff. That's again not the most dark horse kind of artist, but hey, if I'm getting the pick, that's who I'm picking. Okay. What about you though? I know you've got somebody that.
Right, so we'll re-add Dark Disciple to the cover. Which, Dark Disciple's got an awesome cover already with the black and the white, and they've just got the color and just really kind of a color splash type of page. But if I were to pick someone, and again, we kind of pull one from the comics, so who I've been really enjoying his art is a Marco Mastrazzo, who does a number of comic book covers. And if it would work for me here, there we go. So here's one for Daredevil, The Woman Without Fear, which is again, it's very kind of noir type of feel on this one. He's got a range, of course, too. But what I like about his covers is that you get a very focused individual, but you have a lot of motion everywhere else. And so I've got like this one, a Hulk one for you, which I thought was just amazing. Awesome. Just the perspective that you get, and again, very realistic and a lot of aggression and stuff there too. Mm-hmm. This is the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6, number 1 that just came out. This is a special cover that came out exclusive. And then I've only been able to find one Star Wars piece of art. And this is actually a Sideshow art, collectible artwork that was on their website to purchase. So, but again, you get the same idea though. You get the central figure of Vader using the Force to to pull up all these rocks around him on Mustafar. But you get the blur and the motion, and it's a very dynamic scene that has layers on it. But yet you still capture this very almost pencil-ish type of aspect of the drawing. So it's still very kind of that keeps that rough feeling. But anyways, I've really enjoyed Marco Mastrazzo's artwork, and I've really looked for his books lately. Anytime I come across it, and he does it for all sorts of franchises, not just Marvel or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, that's who I would pick to do Dark Disciple. Good. And again, I'm just looking for something different. I mean, it's just, the cover was so good. Matt Taylor did the original cover, by the way, for Dark Disciple. And again, another fantastic artist. And it is a really cool cover. It works really well for the book, but there you go.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see. Next question from Youthall says, with the Kenobi Disney Plus series premiering this month and the Andor series in the works, do we think Disney will try to lightly tie these into any future Star Wars movies like they are with Marvel right now? What do you think that tie-in would be?
So I think that's the desire, right? We know this is where they're wanting to go, and we've seen the integration with Book of Boba Fett, Mando, and presumably with Ahsoka, right? I mean, clearly with Ahsoka already, but maybe with her series as well. And there's evidence that suggests that they're doing this with the movies. I think the difficult part is we don't know what kind of movies they want to make at this point. We know that Michael Walden is writing one right now. We don't know much about it. Some of the other movies that we thought we were getting have now been shelved. So again, we don't know what. We know that with what Filoni and Favreau were trying to do, they wanted to build to an event. And again, this is very much the Marvel way of doing it, but Star Wars seems to be doing it more on the TV side right now. And without that clear picture of, and actually a friend of mine were talking about this yesterday, with Marvel, you had all of these things building to the Avengers events, right? But if you look at Marvel right now, what is Marvel building towards? We don't really know, because Avengers is kind of done, and we're not really building the new Avengers. We're going off on this crazy, multiverse thing. So they're kind of similar boats right now, that Marvel's still very well integrated, but where is it going? I think that's the thing with Star Wars, and I think what you could do though is you could use, some of the issues you run into is like with Kenobi and Andor, I think particular is that they're kind of more in this in between space. They're kind of early original trilogy, late prequel trilogy, and so where do you fit that in? But you could continue to work other characters we've seen. I mean, Ahsoka could keep getting brought in. You got Cad Bane, you got Chrysanthemum, all within the context of Andor, and of course Ahsoka. And then you could even see people like Lando, like a younger Lando. Probably not going to happen because we know Donald Glover's working on his own series. But then Aphra, I think, is another great one you could bring in for another cameo type of thing to build into another bigger event, and even bring in old Boba Fett if you wanted to, without with his helmet on, so you wouldn't have to see the aged aspect of it. But
I think it de-age him. It does already.
Yeah, true. But yeah, with the movie part, that's really difficult to see how they would link all of that together, because we don't have a big bad event or we know that everything's going to get together and they're all going to pull together, become, Avengers Assemble. We just don't have that outlook. And I really don't feel comfortable guessing at this point what that might be. I know that doesn't bother you, though.
No, that's not going to stop.
So please.
Well, so this question, I'm with you 100% on the unfortunate part about this question is I don't see them, like, movies are so, like, not even on the radar, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not talking about them. They're not, I mean, yeah, they want to do them and there's a reason for all of that, right? But they have really, this is the legacy of Bob Iger. Like, he doubled down on Disney Plus. He doubled down on TV series and said, this is the future, right? The foreseeable future anyways. And I think they've so far have hit it out of the park, whether you like it or not, like them or not. They've done a really good job with the subs that they've added, the quality of the content, both on the Marvel side and the Star Wars side, and even some of the other shows. Like, we don't talk about half the other stuff that Disney Plus puts out there, but there's some pretty good stuff they're doing.
Right.
They have the chops to do all of this stuff. And this is what, when we talked a long time ago, 4 years ago now, about, the future of Marvel or the future of Star Wars and how Lucasfilm was going to be handled, I still feel like, yeah, they've had some missteps. I mean, that's okay. But if there's any one company out there that can do this, can have that many balls in the air while they're juggling, it's going to be somebody like Disney. They have the arms and the stretch, the reach to do it. They took a misstep in the approach, but like logistically and financially and creatively, they have everybody that they need there. It's just a matter of making it work. Okay, so that aside, I don't know that they're going to do anything with this upcoming series that'll play into movies. I think, if I had a guess, the series that are happening past Return of the Jedi, they probably have more potential for spinoff or further development in movies, right? You think about like Rogue Squadron as an example. We know that takes place in the future. I mean, maybe they, this is a far cry, but maybe they take something like Resistance and take those characters and do something with them, right? A little bit later on and bring them, introduce them into a movie, which, by the way, season 2 is actually pretty good. Shameless plug there for it. But I think you have a better shot of them taking stuff like, even from Ahsoka, like Jonesy said, there's probably something from Ahsoka that they could take, whether it's Ahsoka herself or new characters. I mean, it feels like they are going to have to develop new characters as well.
Yeah.
Because they need to keep this thing going. And we have all the established characters, as part of the sequel trilogy, but I don't think we're going to play in that space until after that. So we've got some time in between, but they've got to start building that up. Now, the other thing too is, like, I know we haven't brought this up in a while, but when you go back 2-3 years ago during that big initial Kathleen Kennedy speech about how all of these TV series were going to be leading to, quote, an event.
Right.
To your point, like, I don't know if that's even true at this point, because they're not following like the Marvel path. The Marvel path was laying bits and pieces for you to start thinking about, right? And everything seems very contained to that series, and there might be cameos here and there, but I'm not seeing like threads of a larger event that's coming, like things that are shifting that are going to have these ripple effects in other shows, or, the introduction of new characters that we're going to see crossover and all that stuff, like you would in a comic book. I just don't see it happening right now. Literally, I'm not seeing it happening in the TV series that we got. They seem very one shot. If there's any series that's going to do it right now, it's Mando.
Right.
So that makes it difficult for me to believe that there is a true event. I would love for them to have an event of some sort like that, but I don't know. Maybe they're just now gearing up. It's hard to say. So I don't know if that answered the question or not. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I would. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Okay. Thanks, Ethel. I'm going to ask you this question, Jonesy.
Okay.
Considering the success of Thrawn and the way he has been reimagined in both books and shows, do you think it is time to reimagine any other Legends characters as more than just a one-off cameo, like a Talon Card in Andor or something? It seems with the amount of new shows on the horizon and their investment in republishing Legends titles, it would be a good time to try something like Thrawn again. Do you see any potential fits?
Yeah, I think there's several, especially if you go back to like Old Republic and that type of thing, which I know we have a question coming up here in a minute, so I don't want to steal that thunder. But if I were looking at kind of same era, what was that?
I said spoiler alert for me, but go on.
So I think if you were looking kind of this era for traditionally, a character like Prince Shizor is one that comes up because we know that Black Sun is active, and you could bring that into like Akira, and you can integrate it with newer canon characters and explore them in that way, and you can tweak those backstories a little bit to make them more interesting, and you get kind of this underworld type of thing that Solo kind of flirted with, but didn't really go all the way on that type of thing. But I think there's two characters I would really love to see though, and that would be, of course, Plagueis is kind of the obvious one, but the other would be Exar Kun. And so I would love for Exar Kun to kind of be reinitiated into canon, because this is just a character that, I mean, gosh, there's so much. It's such an important character in the lore, and to have him be brought back and reintegrated into the newer way of storytelling and how we view Star Wars these days, I think would be a lot of fun to do. Oh, I also reached out to Mike about this one, and he said Mara Jade, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's surprising. I wouldn't have. I
didn't see that coming, but yeah, Mara Jade was what Mike Rondo said.
I like that. Good for you, Mike.
What about you?
Okay, so yeah, I would say that if I had to pick a character, again, that's why I said spoiler alert. I would. You said. No, who did you say? You said one of the,
I said a few. I said Shizor, Exar Kun, or Plagueis.
Exar Kun. Sorry, so I want to focus on Exar Kun. Although Plagueis is an interesting one, I hadn't considered that one, and you said it was the obvious one, but yeah, that would be kind of cool. I think we're going to get that eventually, though. I think it's a given. Yeah. But from Legends, if I had to pick somebody, I would say I think we are getting close to being due some sort of Sith series.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let me just leave it at that. Right, think about that. We've had so much of the good. We didn't really have the true Sith. I mean, yeah, the Emperor came back, but whatever. We had we had Kylo Ren. But we haven't had like the Sith proper ever, really, if you think about it, outside of like Legends,
Right.
So, well, I mean, okay, maybe Phantom Menace, but in the original trilogy, point, though, but yeah, you get my point, right? Yeah. We haven't had it in their full glory. Here we are. We're not hiding anymore, kind of thing. So, I think if I had to pick, I would go with one of those characters. I had Exar Kun down as a possibility. I think Darth Bane is probably the easiest one.
Probably the most realistic, yeah.
Yeah, because they've already talked about him. They've shown him. He's been mentioned even in the High Republic novels, I think, at one point. He just keeps coming up more and more. So having like a Darth Bane brought forth, and they would have to go back in time. With Exar Kun, you don't have to do that, right? Because he gets his future time as well as the past, given he was suspended, or what was it? He was imprisoned, or
yeah,
I forget the whole story there now. But so Exar Kun, you could go back in the past and do then, or you could do him coming back in the future and all that. But I think we're overdue for one of these Sith Lords. So Bane, I wouldn't say like somebody like Malgus, but definitely Bane. I mean, you could do a Revan story. I don't know if I really want a Revan story as much as I talk about that. I'd rather play a Revan game than a story, but that's just me. But yeah, touching on some of these old Darth characters and bringing them forward, I'm tempted to start writing just fanfic, really, more than anything, about the Sith, right, and what that revival would look like post the Rise of Skywalker. I've been thinking about that ever since we did the Rule of Two series. I've got all these ideas about how they could do that and bring it back. So I've been thinking about doing that. But I would like to see a TV series, or even maybe not a movie, but a TV series, I think, could be explored where they bring something like that, one of those characters back, like an Exar Kun.
Yeah, and that's where we have to see what the Acolyte actually, gives us, I think. This might be the closest we're going to get for a little while.
Right.
The Acolyte. So maybe this rolls into to Rob's question as well. So thanks, J-Dubs, for that. And with Rob's question was, Revan, Darth Malgus, or Darth Bane, based only on the novels and games canon, who would be the best movie character to make a trilogy about, and why? And why? So I'm guessing you would go with Bane, right?
It's Bane, yeah.
Because he's got a trilogy already in books, right?
Yeah, he's got a trilogy. He's a complex character. He's got a story to tell. It's a sad story. It's not an easy ride by any means. Just the radical way of thinking and the way he goes about himself and the way he brings back the Sith and the new approach to the Sith and establishing that Rule of Two. And again, I don't want to get into this because I think we beat a dead horse to some extent on that show. But I think there's a lot of story. There's a lot of content there that they could really carry over into a TV series or a movie trilogy or something. I mean, it's definitely there. Now they probably would modernize it, like you said.
Absolutely.
A little bit. They need to do some things, tweak it a little bit here and there. But I think he's prime pickings more than somebody like Malgus. Malgus is he's got such a long history now with the video game. Same thing with Revan. Bane has been, for the most part, untouched. He does come up from time to time, but he's not. His story still isn't, quote, in development as Revan and Malgus are currently with what's going on in SWTOR.
Right.
So more Malgus than Revan, but yeah, you get my point.
Yeah, I do. And again, I think there's a clear winner in those three of who is most likely to be done. And I'm with you. I think generally it's Darth Bane, I think, is where we want to see what is the canon story with the origination of the Sith, right? Let's actually put it all out there and do it, right? Now, I knew you were going to choose Bane, so I went with someone else just to be a little contrary. And I actually picked Malgus, and it's because of all of the story that keeps evolving. Now, that story is not complete yet for Malgus, right? Mm-hmm. But this is a character that, much like Revan, but Revan's kind of going between, he's good, he's evil, all these things happen. But, Malgus his life is kind of your traditional Star Wars story as well, with a lot of pain, has to make a really tragic decision and has to reject certain things, and he starts to cast off shackles and stuff as well, and in some of the newer parts of the game, as far as I understand it. So I think this is another a character that's really becoming more fleshed out to where he's a really interesting one that I would really be interested in seeing a very cohesive story with the character. And I would be cool if they did it in the CGI of the video game. I think that would be totally fine too. Give me an animated type of show or movie series or something like that. I keep harping on that. I would love that type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But I think Malgus, I think his story is getting to that point where it is a very interesting one. And not to mention the characters is cool. And then you bring in Satele Shan, you get all of these other characters that come in, and you get to see the sacking of Coruscant. I mean, you get to see a lot of good stuff too, because let's just be honest, those cinematic scenes in SWTOR are like off the chain.
Yeah. And spoiler, but Coruscant gets sacked many times.
Many times, yes. That place is ripe for sacking.
Ripe for sacking.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. And again, thanks, J-Dubs, for kind of giving us a good lead in there, too. All right. So that's all of our Patreon questions. So all of our Patreon members, thank you so much for supporting the show. We really do appreciate you guys doing that. And that's guaranteeing you get. So we do have a few more non-Patreon, though, Albert. So the first one is from Rural Farm Boy. Folks tend to give stormtroopers a hard time, quote unquote, couldn't hit the broadside of a bantha and such. We've seen in places and otherwise. My question, how does the Galactic Empire keep an iron grip on the galaxy for nearly 30 years with incompetent soldiers? May the force be with you and fellas.
They do that. It's a number. It's like they're lemmings. They're just, you think about the galaxy. It's so huge. There's so many people out there in the galaxy, right? And they, based on the inscription, drafting these folks left and right, offering them tons of money and all that. I think, to be fair though, I think there are stormtroopers, like especially in some of the comics, unfortunately, is where we see them. They actually they can actually hit certain things.
Yeah, special forces and elite forces too. Yeah,
exactly right. That Kenobi doesn't say that line about these blaster bolts are too precise for sand people,
right?
Only Imperial agents, right? He's speaking,
which we're actually finding is not true. Because the sand people are marksmen, man. They're
actually marksmen, yeah. That part of it isn't true anymore.
We've got cannon breaking material going on in Boba Fett.
Yeah, but I always thought him saying that line, like in general, like a broadly, that they actually have people that are competent and can hold their own. And we're seeing more of that now. Like for a long time, it was just stormtroopers. Now we've got all kinds of levels of stormtroopers, and we realize, yeah, the stormtroopers really are kind of like they're fodder. Like they're the first ones to go in, not very well trained. They don't have the best equipment on them, but they are boots on the ground and they serve a purpose, right? Think about Solo and what was going on there. And they were just sending these guys to their death left and right during the flashback scene there. So I think they have a purpose, and that's what they are. But there are other troopers now. Maybe they've retconned that to some extent, right? That's probably a retcon, right? Where they've gone back and, oh, this is really what we meant. And, there's different groups. We're getting the, what is it? The, not the shock troopers or jump troopers. What's the one in the,
the Purge troopers. Yeah.
Purge troopers. Yeah. I think you're going to see those guys way more competent, much like you saw stuff in the new series, like in Mandalorian as well.
Right.
So
I think
we did see stormtroopers in there get.
Yeah, and there's two things that come to mind though, Rural, is that fear and physical oppression are how they're keeping everyone in line, right? I mean, and Tarkin says a little bit about this when he's talking about the Death Star, but you could equate this. I'm glad you brought up Solo, because we really see great examples of it in Solo as well as in Bad Batch, where when they're in the terminal and Kieran and Han are trying to get away, you see the impact of the troopers there and what they can do, and just how physically they imposing they are, especially to normal people, and the way that they'll hit people or do it, whatever they need to do to enforce it. And then we start to see that oppression happening with in Bad Batch as well. And I think the thing to remember also is early on, a lot of these were still clone troopers, and so they were still very competent for a while, and it degraded over time. But once you get that picture in your head of the military might is this, is really difficult for you to scale that back and to interpret it any differently. And we see this in our own real life, right? Where countries maybe traditionally had a very strong army, but over time, when you see it in action, you're like, okay, well, I remember that being a little more impressive last time. Yeah. And now it's not. And so, some of that stuff happens over time, and you're right, with conscription and everything else, it just deteriorates it after a while, because if you don't have the will to be there, how much skill you have doesn't really matter. But again, I like the Solo example in Bad Batch. I think if you go look at those, you get a better feel for how they kept people in check. But as a result, as it waters down, that's when you get more people signing up for rebellion, because they see that weakness at the same time. That's why the Empire was so important to get the Death Star out and about, because that was the ultimate weapon of fear and oppression.
Yep.
But yeah,
fear will keep the locals in line.
That's right. Yeah, good question. Okay, here's one I know you've been begging to get ready and ask or answer. So Ash gave us a question of who is chasing Luke and Lando in Shadow of the Sith.
So, do you want to give the context on that one?
No, you go for it. Go for it.
Okay, we're really over on time, but
we're going to make it. We've only got one more question. We got this.
Okay, cool. So the questions come up because recently there was an excerpt from I think IO9 had this excerpt from Shadow of the Sith, which is the upcoming novel that takes place after Return of the Jedi, and it has Luke and Lando together, and there is a Sith. Like, they've confirmed there is a Sith running about that they're after or whatever, right? And so this excerpt had some information about their it was kind of from their perspective, and so it sent and with that little clip that they released, IO9 said something. I'm paraphrasing here, but if you follow the canon books, this character is somebody that's going to be familiar to you.
Right.
And it was really ambiguous and kind of vague, but saying that, look, this isn't a new character. It's somebody we've already put in front of you. And
do you have the image that they showed? I'll pull it up while you talk.
Okay, cool. While you pull it up. So what do we know about? Here's how I went about trying to figure out who it is a couple things. Number one, if it is going to be a Sith, it has to be somebody Force sensitive. Okay, they don't have to necessarily be full on Force empowered, but they have to be Force sensitive in some way if they're going to carry the title of Sith. And I think I want to say in the image she was holding a lightsaber, right?
Yes.
Okay, so she's got a lightsaber, so she's able to wield that. She's got to be female because they've already said they've confirmed that she is female, and she looks feminine, at least on the cover of the book. So you've got Force sensitive, female, somebody that's already been in the canon novels, not Legends. That already pairs it down to like literally one person, in my opinion.
Well, and they gave almost a dead giveaway too in the excerpt.
The dead giveaway was she makes some comment about looking up, I think, at the sky,
Pantoran,
and she says it's a Pantoran blue, right? So Pantorans are the blue characters, the blue people, like George Lucas's character was. We've got the Pantoran recently on that new cover for Phase 2, Light of the Jedi. But they're very attractive looking people. Okay, so if you Pantoran, female, Force sensitive, the only person I think it can be is Kiza. And Kiza is a character that was, again, introduced going back to the Empire's Aftermath series of novels. She was another character, kind of like the Cobb Vanth, that was brought up from time to time. There you go. That's the image. Yep. Looks really good. I like the artwork. Yeah, I like her mask. Oh, the mask too.
So the mask,
like this is where
I got thrown off, because the mask is different than how they explained it at Empire's End.
Yes. Yeah. However, but I'd agree. Yes, you're right. But I kind of just chalk that up to okay, they've kind of like they did with Cobb Vanth. They kind of altered some things and, but for the most part, it's 98% still true. I actually like this mask a lot.
I think it works. Yeah.
I think it works. Right. So the mask is another one. There was a mask that was involved, and we don't get into the whole story. I think we're going to have to at some point, honestly, because I don't think we're going to get a lot of that backstory in the novel itself, but maybe there's a show for us to do where we cover Kiza and her story. But yeah, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 signs that kind of definitely point to it being Kiza. And quickly on her background, she is force sensitive. She grew up in poverty. She hated the Republic. The acolytes of the Sith eventually bring her in. She gets trained. I'm trying to remember what else they give her. She falls in. There's a dude she falls in love with too.
Yeah.
I forget what his point in the story is now, but it is important because she ends up using like his lightsaber, I think, at some point, and then they end up getting in this jealousy kind of thing. He's mad at her or whatever. So anyways, it's again, the point of the Aftermath series, for anybody that doesn't know, was really for this type of thing. It was like world building. Yes, we were getting, here's the aftermath of what happened, but they were introducing us to all these different characters. And I think that threw a lot of people off because they never did anything with so many of those characters for so long.
What's really crazy though, is it feels like Empire's End was forever ago, but it was only 5 years. It was only 5 years ago. When I look back, I was like, man, Empire's, it just feels like forever. It feels like it's been 10 years, but all that stuff with Chuck Wendig all happened just 5 years ago. I was beside myself that it's only been that long. It felt like
it feels like longer. 10 or 15.
It does. I mean, and part of that's because we've just had so much content drop the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, I was shocked that it had not been longer than what it has been.
Yeah, she's going to be, I think it's going to be a cool character.
Are those kyber crystals? Kind of look like red kyber crystals, huh?
Maybe. Yep.
That's really cool artwork. I like that a lot. Did they say who did that?
Nah, I don't know. I didn't look.
Well, they got the thing on there at BN Buzz.
I think it's Barnes and Noble. Because they had an exclusive cover or something. I don't know.
Oh, an excerpt from Shadow by Ghostfinder. Okay. Well, anyway, so we've got it on Twitter. It's on the Del Rey Star Wars book as well, if people are curious about it. I'm with you. It's got to be Kiza.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be anybody else unless they're pulling some crazy fast one on us where they're gonna, we got you, suckered you into it. I just don't. It's so obvious.
I mean, yeah, with the Pantoran reference, it's kind of what other direction do you go?
Yeah.
Okay, Albert, we've made it to the very end, and this is going to be one of the most fun ones we've done here. So, Star-Lord coming in hot at the very end. If you had to cast the other member of the Cantina cast in a Star Wars movie, who would they play? And Albert, you cannot cast me as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mon Mothma.
Gender bent. All right. You're going to die when I give you my answer. So I want you to give me yours first.
I'm going to go with, is it General Nadine?
Huh.
Because of your beard.
Wow. Way to typecast me.
I'm sorry. I think it works. I think you could do a good job.
Well, maybe I'd be Dodonna or something.
Maybe. You need a few more years. I mean, we put some makeup on you, some prosthetics, and get you looking like like him. But yeah, I picked him also because he's got that cool comb over, and I think you could pull, your hair's long enough, you know what I mean, where you could do that little creepy, schwanky comb over that he has, or the way he brushes his hair.
Yeah, it's like semi-emo. Like he's making a comeback now.
Exactly.
Okay, are you?
I don't have a better answer, so
that's fine. Yeah. I have a great one for you.
Oh boy, here we go.
C-3PO, because you're always you know everything. You're always right, and you can't stop talking.
Okay, I'll take it. It's fair criticism. I will own that.
I only say it because I love you. But I was thinking of, I was like, man, there's got to be someone that fits Albert really, really well. And I was like, it's got to be C-3PO. There's a story behind everything.
There's a story behind everything. Oh my goodness. I tried to do a quick video like of showing the Rebels, that Deluxe Rebels, Art of Rebels box set that I've got.
Yeah.
And I was just going to do like a quick video to show someone, and it ended up turning like to 3 minutes. And then I had to upload it to YouTube because I couldn't share it, through our normal channels. And it's like, and I remember just mentioning, it was like, I turned this into a longer video than it needed to. And I apologize for that because I couldn't shut up the entire time. So I'm sorry.
No, I love you, man. That's why we love you, Albert. We are so educated because of the knowledge that you bring and the amount of West End games that we talk about on the show.
Get to Juan Maz, totally Maz. I'm not doing Maz. You can't. I quit. I'll walk off the set right now.
New glasses.
Now, here's Alex's question: who's your favorite Gungan, and why is it Boss Nass? We're keeping that sound bite for something later down the road.
Oh man, that brings us to the end of the Q&A. You can see why we have so much fun with this show, because we never know what we're going to have thrown at us.
Yep.
And it's so much fun. Again, Patreon members, thank you so much for your support. We hope we answered your questions in a thoughtful way, maybe somewhat amusing way sometimes. And if you're interested in joining Patreon and getting some of the perks that we've got there, cantinacast.com/Patreon will take you there. But we thank everybody for all of their questions that we had. And we had a really great set of listeners tonight too. A lot of people watching and chiming in, and a really fun chat. So why don't we do a little bit of a shout out here. So we had Steph, Risk, Ken, Rob, Lauren, Twan, Keaton, Ash, Alex. There we go. With special guest, Maz Kanata and Boss Nass. Yeah. But seriously, everybody, thank you guys for coming out so much. Again, like I was saying at the beginning of the show, go check out cantinacast.com/events to keep track of what we're doing. Subscribe to those calendars. All of our stuff for everything that we're doing, including at Celebration, is out there. So you have it all in one place if you want to go check that. Please RSVP if you're going to be out at Celebration and you want to hang out. Again, we're just kind of hanging out, having fun. There's no super crazy agenda, anything like that. Just enjoying each other's company, having fun. And since that's the day before Kenobi, that should be, or is that the night after Kenobi? That's Friday. Yeah. So the night after Kenobi, we will have a lot to talk about with Obi-Wan, 2 episodes. So that'll be pretty exciting. So
yeah, we got some more people that signed up. I'm looking forward to everybody so far. JR, I don't know if he's with us tonight, but JR Eaton, a longtime fan, member, supporter of The Basement. That dude knows a lot about Star Wars and pop culture. Like, he is awesome. I can't wait to finally meet him in person. So he was actually one of the people that helped me. I got him to be an admin on the YouTube show when we did the Ernie Klein show.
Oh yeah, nice.
He was one of the guys that helped me out with that show too. So very cool that we're going to finally get to meet him. But we've got more and more people signing up for it. So I can't wait.
Yeah, we need to go. Yeah, we need to go ping Greg over at Rebel Base Card. Make sure he comes out for it too.
He did. Well, we'll talk about it off here, but he did ping us.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I can't wait. Okay, so here's quickly schedule lineup wise. We'll come back in 2 days and do the Patreon episode where we're gonna redo the trilogy. We'll just call it that. I hate to say that we're gonna redo it, but you know what I mean. And then next week, I know who was it? Keaton had asked about the Inquisitor show. Again, I was on death's door, feeling better now. We're gonna move that to next week, I believe. Is that right? On the 17th is when we got that planned. And then we're going to get into a lot of Celebration stuff and get into a lot of Kenobi stuff building up to Kenobi. We've got quite a few shows coming up here where we're going to talk about Kenobi that'll take us right up until Celebration. So, I mean, dude, we're like, I don't know, 2.5 weeks away from Celebration at this point?
We are on the precipice of it. Yes. About 16 days. Yeah. 16 days.
Exciting times, man. Exciting times. Okay. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, Albert, take us away.
I'm going to get you to do that later on. Okay, that was it for this episode. We'll see you guys very shortly. Oh, and I will get the credits updated here very soon as well. I'm working on some Kenobi Patreon credits.
Kenobi!
All right, see you later.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.